Hello, everyone. I'm Anita Vogel, along with Joe Concha, Lisa Booth, and David Webb. And welcome to the Big Weekend Show. The big story tonight. A bombshell new report claims that President Biden had at least 2 chances to prevent the Kabul airport suicide attack in Afghanistan that killed 13 service members during the administration's chaotic exit from the country in 2021. The report coming from a new book in which an officer claims, quote, I shared intelligence about the pending attack, so everyone was aware and knew it was happening. The intelligence community didn't know the gate, but assessed it would be Abbey Gate due to the number of people there. But that's not all. Another officer giving more insight into just how much the U.S. knew about the impending attack and the inaction that let it happen. Quote, intelligence officers knew that ISIS-K was staging in a hotel 2 to 3 kilometers west of Hamid Karzai International Airport, and General Donahue asked the Taliban to conduct an assault on the hotel, but they never did. These are just some of the most recent revelations that have come to light about how seemingly poorly the Biden administration handled America's withdrawal from Afghanistan. Republicans reacting to the new report today, vowing to hold the White House accountable and uncover as much information as they can about the botched withdrawal. Listen.
U.S. intelligence had ISIS-K in their sights, knowing they were plotting to take out Abbey Gate on the very same day that it was taken down when the suicide bomber went off. They asked the Taliban to go in, our U.S. military. The Taliban denied. U.S. intelligence requested an airstrike. Guess what? That airstrike was denied. Was denied to go in and take out the very forces that then killed our 13 servicemen and women.
Wow. Okay. I think this information, it's safe to say, is shocking, it's disturbing, and it's going to bring a lot of anger, especially from those Gold Star families who lost their loved ones in this suicide attack. I do think it's interesting, the 2 authors, one, Jerry Dunleavy, is an investigator, and he's been working with the House Foreign Affairs Committee to investigate what happened. The other author, James Hassan, is a former Army officer who himself served in Afghanistan. He said they dug through reports, and in some cases, this information was in plain sight. They missed 2 chances to stop this suicide bomber. David, what does accountability look like?
My first question is, did they miss 2 chances or ignore 2 chances? There's so much more to this. Why give up Bagram as a second position or even as a primary position? There was already a staged exit underway. People had been leaving Kabul, leaving Afghanistan. So did they ignore it because Biden wanted to hit a date? But you know what? Joe Biden on foreign policy and national security is not the person I would ask the question. To General Donahue, to the military commanders who did this, a couple things you heard there. One, an airstrike on a hotel in civilian area when you had better opportunities to go in with a small force and take them out. You rely on the Taliban? No, you do not even ask them. We have the ability to go in there. We have operators that can go in and take this out, and not just Marine operators, but others in country. So many mistakes were made there. I have to ask the question, did you just ignore the reality on the ground? And when you look at the airport in Kabul, when you narrow yourself down to one point of exit and you have a narrow corridor that we were allowed to fly in and out of, you've literally created the perfect circumstance for this. And it was just so many failures. But my question is for the military commanders. Since this has happened, not one person has put their rank on the table. Yeah. Not one flag officer has put their rank on the table. Joe Biden has been wrong since his days in the Senate about anything when it comes to military or foreign policy. He is incapable. But the military commanders are not supposed to be. They're not weak-kneed men, or at least they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to stand up to the president and say, look, Mr. President, this is tactically unsound. This is the wrong thing to do. And not one of them has put a star on the table and said, this is not going to happen.
Yeah, that is a good point. And, you know, Lisa, according to snippets of this book, they knew this was going to happen. They knew it was going to happen. They had a couple chances. David said they could have done something before. They really didn't do much there. We're talking about it now, but how long does this stay in the minds of the American people? And is this going to matter in the 2024 election?
I know it personally fills me with disgust, even just hearing all this and covering it. But I believe that day was the unraveling of his presidency, because he sold Americans this lie that he was going to be this competent leader, this even-handed leader. And then what we saw him was is a feckless leader, a coward, a liar. And it was disgusting and a shameful moment in American history. And I have an interview out tomorrow morning with Cheryl Rex for my podcast, The Truth with Lisa Booth. She lost her son, Marine Lance Corporal Dylan Marola. He was only 20 years old, had only been in Afghanistan for less than 2 weeks. He was one of the 13 who was killed that day that could have been prevented. And Joe Biden had the audacity to sit there during the dignified transfer before it, look at her face and lie to her and say that he also brought his son home in a flag-draped coffin. She knew he was lying. She knew that he lost his son from cancer, not from that. He didn't apologize to her for getting her son killed. He didn't express any remorse whatsoever, proceeded to look at his watch during the ceremony. And this White House won't even provide them with answers. They shield it behind classified information. So these parents, he got their kids killed, won't answer their questions, and then sat there and lied to her. And so it is just disgusting. It is shameful. I think it's the most shame I've ever felt as an American in my entire life.
Wow. It is devastating, and we all watched those Gold Star families testify at that field hearing last week. They didn't know about this book yet. I'm just wondering how they feel now. Joe, the White House has said over and over again, they have characterized this exit as a success. They said it was a successful operation. How long now can they push that narrative?
The adjective I remember from Jen Psaki, a resounding success. This was after the service people were killed, 13 of them. I've been jotting down notes when David and Lisa have been speaking because I want to address a couple of things. David had said they were relying on a date. Let's make clear what that date was. 9/11, we got to make sure, just like when you're moving out of your house before the closing date, we want to make sure that we get everybody out so on 9/11 we can say, for political purposes, that we got it done. A life and death situation, and you're putting a timeline on it, and as you said, not using Bagram Air Base, which we controlled, as opposed to bowing to the Taliban. And when we wanted to, according to Dunleavy and Hassan, when we wanted to level an airstrike, we were afraid of what the Taliban would do, that they would somehow be offended. Sorry, I think we're the ones still in control there. You also asked, Anita, how long in the minds of the American people will this resonate? You look at the homepages right now of CNN, Washington Post, and the New York Times. You'll never guess what story they don't have one story on, and that is the revelations in this book. You go to CNN alone, the first 7 stories are on Donald Trump. You got to go 31 stories down before you see anything on the Bidens in any way, shape, or form, particularly Hunter Biden. So that's the bottom line. You said it before. Joe Biden's been wrong in every policy decision he's ever made from a foreign policy perspective. Robert Gates, his own defense secretary during Obama-Biden, literally wrote that in a book. So it's not David Webb's opinion, or it is David Webb's opinion, but it's Robert Gates' opinion because he saw it up close.
But I think that is one of those dates that people are not going to forget. Like, Americans are going to remember the fact that he sat there, he turned his back, he wouldn't answer questions, that he got those 13 service members killed, that he left Americans behind, that people were clinging to the planes because of how moronic and disastrous the exit was and how poorly planned it all. I do not believe that people are ever I will never forget that. I mean, that was one of the most disgusting moments in my lifetime. I think that's going to be etched in people's minds. And I do think that people change their opinion on Joe Biden based off of that.
His polls went off a cliff right after that. He was around 50%, and then suddenly, boom, the trust was gone.
I want to bring this back to the people, because these were not just our warriors that were killed. All right? Maxton's family in Ohio, Maxton Soviak, an amazing family, adopted foster parents. Riley McCullum, his mom, Kathy, who is broken. She's sweetheart of a lady. All the others, their connections to this. Something else and this is why I go to the military commanders, not Joe Biden. Bagram, for example, I was inside Bagram during 3 firefights over several hours. It's almost impossible to penetrate. The Soviets built it. Why did we give up a defensible position that could be used as either a primary or a fallback. The military commanders didn't stand up to Joe Biden. He may be the CIC, but he does have the final command authority, but he does not have all the information. And as Jim Webb, when he was SecNav, stood up to Bill Clinton when he wanted to hollow out the Navy, he put his stars on the table and resigned as SecNav.
Yeah.
Where are the military commanders here?
It's like across the board, just shamefulness.
Yeah, and a lot of people asking that question about Bagram Airport. They're going to be asking for some time. Real quick, the book is called Kabul, The Untold Story of Biden's Fiasco and the American Warriors Who Fought Until the End.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.